And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. For a very long time, Canadians were unaware of the horrors and conditions that 150,000 Indigenous children endured in their Indian residential schools for over a period of 100 years. On today's show, we'll bring you highlights of the reconciliation pole raising, but first, we open our archives to Frida Deasing.
In this project, it is done by local people for themselves. To see this kind of a thing being done in a village that had almost lost its culture, and this is really bringing the culture back to a place that originally had good carvers. And it says in the books that some of the poles up in the Nass River were carved by a Kitsim-Kalim carver, and so there had to be good carvers in this area at one time. And this is kind of bringing back an art that belonged to this area, back to some of the places where it has originally been. And that's what makes it more interesting to me than to be teaching people that they didn't have it in their history to be doing this work. And it's been a pleasure to work with the people in this village. And they were saying everyone is really good-natured, and we enjoyed our working together here.
We're honored to be here today to stand and support Cambodian Friendship Society. I want to thank them for the invitation to be here today to witness this very special event. I think it's important to acknowledge our people. It's great to see so many people out today on this very special day to acknowledge and remember those young ones that did not make it home. My late father was a residential school survivor. Our history is an oral history. What I share, I hope each and every one of you remember it. My name's Glenn Bennett. Junahada. My mom's village, Kikatla. My father was a Luxlebu from Kitsalis. Today is a special day to remember not only those who survived, but those that yet have to carry on. We have to try and rebuild our culture, our history. Somalia is our language. I was at an event this morning out in Gitaas. I'm trying to learn. I asked the guests that attended, please repeat Delawende. Delawende. That means how are you? Look around. Look around. That means how are you? I am fine. I am fine, and I'm happy to be here today to stand with our people, our honored guests, to witness the raising of this totem pole here on the traditional territory of the Tsimshian people. What we say, we hope you remember it. Share it with your friends and family. that you are here today to witness this event done by the Comote Friendship Society. Our good friends Stan Bevan, Dempsey Bob, have very close ties to Kitsilus. We're honored every time they raise a pole. They are world renowned. You see their artwork at the Vancouver International Airport, other countries such as Japan. On behalf of Kitsilus, thank you for inviting us.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Reconciliation is an ongoing process through which Indigenous peoples and the Government of Canada work cooperatively to establish and maintain a mutually respectful framework with a view of fostering strong, healthy, and sustainable Indigenous nations within a strong Canada. Let us rejoin the conversation with Seldamix Mandik.
I'm a Galamalik, speaker for Wadiwai here in Terrace, Lucky Get, lawmaker, law protector for Wadiwai, Ada, and speaker and for to get in Lakwalams. So 2 roles. Very important in that it symbolizes a story of what is happening, not just currently, but what has happened and taken place in Canada that we haven't been allowed to do for a lot of years. And to do pieces like this here means we're taking our power back. We're taking back our identities of who we truly are. And being allowed to do so is the best thing that has happened. I know a lot of people like Trudeau, but Trudeau was the first Liberal government to open its doors for reconciliation to happen. And this is a big part of that. And because of the 215, our voices are now being heard. And I'm going to urge Canada to keep listening until our survivors are done, the stories are out, and then we can move forward. There's no top, there's no bottom. It's a story. That's what it's all about. If it was in front of my chief's house, it'll be about who he is. It'll tell the story of his family and his lineage. That's all you need to know about the totem pole, is that it is a story, and somebody could share that story with you. My grandma talked about building canoes. It took a long time to find the right tree to build a canoe. The same thing happens with a pole. It takes a long time to find the right pole. And when they find the right pole, I would think a lot of the times they don't know where it's going to go until something comes up. A lot of it's not instinct. It's just that, okay, I think I know where that pole belongs. It just comes as part of the spirituality of our artists and our elders. Well, one of the stories I read was a pole was stolen when a lot of the tribesmen left the village to go do something that they had to do. And settlers came in and took the pole and stole it, and then they rose it in their city. So although that happened, there were a lot of other people that actually just traded, right? They traded the stuff away. But I have a hard time believing that poles were a part of that trade. It may have been, I don't know that for sure. But they represent a tribe, they represent a chief, they represent a people, right? And that's where they really belong, and that's why it's important to have it back in the territory. I hope that as we move forward, Reconciliation Day will be replaced with Brotherhood and Sisterhood Day, which is where we want to be.
We have a long history of being sister villages, both the Kitsillas and the Kitsum-Kalam people. We reside on the 2 sides of the city of Terrace. Just up the hill is where is the road to Old Kitsillas. It takes you to where our elders were raised as children. Kitsillas was the original toll keepers of the Kitsillas Canyon. No one was allowed to pass the canyon without paying a toll. Today we still are the toll keepers we watch over our land, our waters, to teach our next generation how to respect and love our land, to continue looking after our resources. Only take what we need. We wear orange today to honor the ones who didn't make it home. Our hearts are still healing from the 215 children who were found, who opened the eyes of the world to the atrocities our people were forced to live. We also wear orange to honor those with us today and the families who walked through the healing. I'm intergenerational survivor. My parents were raised, my dad was raised with his siblings, and they lived through their own traumas of how their parents raised them as first intergenerational survivors. So I just wanted to take the time today and thank all the elders who came up with us. Isabel McKee is our eldest elder we have in Kitsilus living today. We have Stella Wright here beside her. She's my auntie. We have Mickey Mason. We have Ann McDames. We have Fred Wells here, who is a survivor of residential school. We have Ann McDames and Lloyd McDames here. We also have Kitsilus Chief Glenn Bennett, as well as Councillor Geneva Mason and her daughter Aaliyah and son Marty. I just want to take this opportunity to say on behalf of me and my family.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. A totem pole or monumental pole showcases a nation's, families, or individuals' histories and displays their rights within certain territories, songs, dances, and other aspects of their culture. Totem poles can also be used for memorials and tell us stories. Let us rejoin the conversation with Stan Bevan.
I'm Jim Cian from Kitsillas. My mother was Teltan Tlingit from Telegraph Creek. I grew up in the Tsimshian territory, and my father is Mel Bevan. When this project got started, I was honored to be able to put in my drawing to create this pole, and I was very honored to have it accepted. And when this project first started, there was no Truth and Reconciliation Day. It was before Kamloops news of the 215 children. It was an emotional journey while working on this pole. I'm hoping that this pole tells its story in itself. I'd like to explain the figures and what the pole is. The bottom figures are the mother and children. And you can see that the children are sad, and one holding a book, and the mother. This represents separation. This represents separation from culture. This represents separation of identity. And I included the residential school with children looking through the windows. There are thousands of stories. These aren't just children. These are stories. In the photo of the children comes from Port Alberni, but it represents all the children of Canada. The bottom figure, the one figure with the red sash, that represents the Métis. And out of thousands of stories, 2 stories came to were highlighted to my, that the first story is Albert Exerza, who is a resident of Terrace, who recently passed away. He wrote his own story in his own book called The Good, the Bad, and the Innocent. The story of the Lower Post residential school, which my older uncles and my aunties attended also, and a lot of the Tahltan people. And I'd like to thank his wife, Rose Deschutes, and his 5 children for allowing me to use his photo in this totem pole. The 2 pictures in the bottom middle, one of them is Albert Exerza. The other photo is, I seen this article years ago and I kept this article. And the other photo is a little girl, Victoria Stewart. And her story was also written. The book was called Murder by Decree. I'd like to thank Ines Spencer for allowing me, her sister. Ines, can you please just wave? Thank you, Ines. The photos also represent the children that went to residential school and them having to look out the windows and longing to go home. The top represents the journey now. The eagle represents the culture. You can see them all holding on to each other's. And it's the culture that's pulling them out and bringing back their identity.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
The word reconciliation continues to mean different things to different people. Individual and institutional efforts can lead to meaningful dialogue and efforts to improve the relationship between Indigenous people and Canada. In this final segment of Open Connection, MP Taylor Bachrach shares his thoughts.
This day is important because almost every single Indigenous family in this region has been impacted by the legacy of residential schools, and we have so much work to do, especially non-Indigenous people, to understand the extent of these harms and to do better, to reconcile, to ensure that the survivors are taken care of, that we support healing, and that the intergenerational legacy is understood, and that we're doing what we can to support communities. So today was such a powerful day, watching that pole be raised and hearing the drums and seeing the way in which the community lifts up the survivors. and shows that caring concern. It's a really beautiful and powerful thing. So this is the second National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And when you look at the 94 calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, this is one of the more symbolic ones. There are other recommendations that are more systemic, probably more impactful. But this day, reflecting on it today, being here and seeing everyone and watching that pole be raised, I think it's an important thing that we have this day once a year. When we come together, we learn, we support each other, we support the Indigenous families and Indigenous nations in our region. That's an important thing. What really matters is what happens tomorrow, too, and that's what I'm thinking about today. Stan Bevins is such a talented artist, an incredible carver, and so to have this artwork on the front of Kermody's building forever is such a gift to our whole region. You know, I spend a lot of time in Ottawa these days, and if you go to the Museum of History, this is a museum that showcases what this country is about. The first thing that you come across when you come in the doors into the first great room are the totem poles of the Northwest. I think all across the country it's recognized as being really the pinnacle of art and expression. So to be here today and to watch that pole being raised, this is something I'll remember for a long time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.